you've ever been to Hollywood, one thing you're sure to remember is this converted barn in the heart of the city. Here, under the leadership of Betty Davis and John Garfield, all the guilds and unions in Hollywood have collaborated in creating and maintaining the Hollywood Canteen. More than 1 million servicemen of the United Nations have been entertained here by almost everybody in motion pictures. Most of its earlier guests are scattered all over the world by now. In the South Pacific, the Aleutians, the Middle East, ETO, Italy, well, let it go at all around the world. And to them, here's a message from one of the canteen's favorites, Miss Dinah Shore.
Hello, fellas. We had some guests of honor here the other night, convalescent men from an Army hospital. And they seemed so darn glad to see the canteen again that we thought maybe you'd like to take a look. Especially you fellas who are so far away from home. So, let's look around. You be our honored guest tonight. Okay? You're greeted at the door by Lana Turner, Deanna Durbin, and Marlena Dietrich. And you grab yourself a partner for some music by Xavier Kruger. Probably you'll find Judge and Mrs. Hardy behind the snack bar. That's Louis Stone and Fay Holden, with Jenny Sims and Virginia Widener. On stage, a song from Eddie Cantor.
Don't want to roam the night. We snug as can be. Being alone is just sublime, you know? A coffee could be sweeter, but I'm not in the dumps. Cause every time she hugs me, it's like 2 extra lumps. We're staying home tonight, my baby.
While Hedy Lamarr hands out autographs. Or some Roughhouse with Red Skelton.
No upsetting the nerves, no bad taste. It's a nice, smooth drink. Pour a little in your glass and drink it right down. But be sure and ask for Guzzler's gin. A nice, smooth drink. Guzzler's gin, babe. Drink a little after dinner. Drink some before, you won't have to eat any dinner.
Or more Roughhouse with Jimmy Durante.
What a racket he's got with that stick. That's a politician's job. I wonder what he'd do with the stick if the band didn't show up.
Fellas, many people from Hollywood are visiting the men at the front. But it isn't possible for all of us to get over there at once. So tonight I'd like to dedicate a song to some men who are fighting and sweating this war the hard way. The men of the China, Burma, India Theater of Operations. Here's some special lyrics to one of your favorite melodies. I'm singing this straight to you guys of CBI. Night and day we think of you, all you mighty men who serve the red, white, and blue, whether near to us or far, please believe no matter where you are, we think of you. Night and day, day and night, surely you know that this feeling for you follows wherever you go. From the desert's burning sand to the frozen cold of northern lands, we think of you. Night and day, night and day, we say a prayer for you, and we're praying that heaven above will watch you and care for you. And when this affair is through, may we not forget
It was a great day in San Francisco. Whistles blowing, bands playing, people waiting for their ship to come in. On this ship, more people, waiting for a sight they thought they'd never see. Here's one of them, Corporal Alfred Jolly, U.S. Army Medical Corps. When he first saw Frisco, he was excited, and he had a right to be. But let him tell you.
That's right. That's me up there in the picture. Only look, we don't call it Frisco. It's San Francisco. And it's home. Boy, oh boy, after 3 years in a Jap prison camp, home sure looks good. And in a way, it looks different. All those warships, planes going places. And that must be a new shipyard. Yeah, when we pulled into San Francisco Bay, there was plenty to shout about. And there was plenty of shouting, cheering. But it takes more than that to get the Japs out of your system. And I couldn't help thinking of a different day, 3 years before. There was shouting and cheering there, too. But in a different language. It was April '42, and the Japs were mopping up on Bataan. They had it all over us in arms and numbers. They kept pounding with everything they had. Their planes were always overhead. Then one day when I was out on an ambulance detail, Jap dive bombers went after the ammunition truck near us. It exploded sky high. When the smoke cleared, no more ambulance for us, no more left arm for Jolly. 3 days later, they had Bataan, and I was a prisoner in the old Bilibit jail in Manila. From there, we saw the Japs punishing Corregidor. They got ready to take the Rock. And they took it. On May 6, '42, General Jonathan Wainwright, Skinny we called him, was forced to surrender. Our flag came down. And the Jap flag went up. The Japs made propaganda movies of their victory to show the folks back in Tokyo what they'd won. Another present for Hirohito. Ruined batteries, a handful of sick Americans. And they showed how well they treated us. Clean beds and care for the sick. Plenty of food, fresh air. All this make-believe for the world to see. There were a lot of things they didn't tell about. Things that were not for the world to see. This was 2 days after General Wainwright's surrender. This was 12,000 Americans, many of them my buddies, jammed into the Kinley Field garage area. One water spigot for all 12,000, and no food for 7 days. In Manila, the Japs celebrated. All day long, they held a march of victory. And only 100-odd miles away, at the Maravelis airfield on Bataan, men we knew were herded together to start another march, a march of death. Hungry, thirsty Filipinos and Americans, most of them too sick to stand, began the 7-day hike to San Fernando. I was lucky I wasn't on that march, but my best friends were, and what they went through wasn't pretty. The Japs kept spitting in their faces, kicking their groins, horsewhipping them, burying some of them alive. These enemy pictures don't show the Jap soldiers beating and bayoneting. They don't show the Jap tanks and trucks running down and crushing dog-tired Americans. But some survived. I met them after I was transferred to Cabanatuan. We lived for almost 3 years at Cabanatuan, and it was lousy. At first, we tried to live like humans. We cared for each other while there was medicine. We took vitamin pills while they lasted. We tried to look our Sunday best, but things kept getting worse. And after a couple of years, just keeping alive was tough. We lived on rice for breakfast, rice for lunch, rice and water for dinner. I lost 93 pounds. What made us hungrier was the way they worked us. We pumped their water. We did their labor. We didn't know what was going on in the outside world. I wrote dozens of cards like this to Mother. She got 9 in 3 years. I only got 5 of hers. We began to give up hope. When I left San Francisco, there wasn't much of an American army and even less of what an army needs. Now the Japs kept showing us their propaganda movies, proving to us they had the world. We saw a newsreel on how they took the Philippines. saw another on how they landed in the Aleutians. We saw their strength. For all we knew, they might be sitting in California and Colorado. Then one day we saw planes, American planes, back over the Philippines. After that, the Japs made it tougher than ever for us. And then MacArthur and his men were back. We began to hope again. Some of us prayed. We didn't know that already Rangers and Filipino guerrillas were on their way. Then they came. They got us away, regular cowboy and Indian stuff. They piled us into trucks. First stop was the 92nd Evacuation Hospital. That's me right there. The second stop was Chow. The third stop, what the well-dressed GI will wear. And then the last stop, home. Things started popping all at once. Wax came alongside, the first I'd ever seen. They passed out mail. And there was a special letter, a greeting from our commander-in-chief. That made it official. The men wrote wires telling when they'd get home. How we waited for that gangplank to go down. Funny the way we worried back in the prison camp if anyone was remembering us. There was someone for everyone. That's Gaston and his wife. He was our first sergeant in the prison. Then, well, that's me and my mom. It was a big day in San Francisco. Even the kids out to cheer and wave. I waved right back. They looked swell. There was one detour, the hospital. After that, there were a lot of things I wanted to do right away. I wanted to walk down Market Street again, and I did. I wanted to take a good look at the old high school, and I did. Back home, I wanted to hit the sack without a worry, and I did. And Mom wanted something, too. She wanted to show me the scrapbook she had kept since I'd left for the Philippines. She had put in just about everything that mentioned me or my outfit. There was one clipping I liked best, and I'll remember it longest. Because for me, and for the rest of us, this meant freedom.
Hi, fellows. Well, here we go again, with our first request coming from Private Anthony Luca, 670th Topographical Company, somewhere in the Southwest Pacific. Private Luca writes, nearly 2 years ago, I closed my business establishment, Tracy Bowling Alleys, Tracy Boulevard, Wallingford, Connecticut, and entered the service. My son was 3 years old then. The picture I'm most anxious to see is my son rolling a ball down the alley.
That sign should look familiar, Private Luca. And so should these citizens of Wallingford going through your front door. And here's a very special citizen, Private, your wife, who asked us to tell you that business is fine. She's made a lot of improvements in the alley since you left. Your son, Bob, said you wouldn't recognize him. He told us he's grown almost 2 inches and has gained 7 pounds. Looks pretty good, doesn't he? He still can't hold the ball in one hand like his dad, but the pins go down just the same. Bob wanted to know if there are any alleys where you are. He says he's keeping in practice so he can take you on when you come home. So get set for that championship match, Private Luca.
P5 George Jenkins, somewhere in Italy, says he's heard about the cigarette shortage back home. and wants to know what the folks are doing for smokes.
One of the things they're doing, Corporal Jenkins, is going without, with most of the shelves throughout the country as bare as Mother Hubbard's. There are half a dozen reasons. Poor tobacco crops, manpower shortages, more American smoking than ever before. Standard brands are scarce. So people, when they can get them, settle for anything from Turkish tobacco to cigarettes that taste like a mixture of corn silk and peanut shells. Or, nowadays, you may find a lady spending as much time choosing a briar or a corn cob as she used to spend picking a new hat. Now, here's another solution for those who must get their daily quota of nicotine. It's all very simple. You just take a 5-cent package of good old Bull Durham, a thin piece of paper, carefully held in the right hand, and then, with a little care, snap them. That's no place to keep tobacco.
Five GIs somewhere in Belgium say they've seen hundreds of beautiful pinup girls, but think it's a shame that the queen of them all has been forgotten. To quote, how about flashing that grand old lady of freedom across the screen, the Statue of Liberty?
There's the lady you want to see, Privates Wythe, Piffarelli, Sirek, Zappola, and Santa. She's still there in the harbor, still carrying the torch for you and the millions of others she sent overseas to do a job. Lately, she's been dolled up a bit and given a whole new system of floodlights. But they don't go on until the day Germany and Japan surrender. Until then, she thanks with quiet pride those who gave their lives so that the liberty she symbolizes for all Americans may live.
Mother says it's in the groove. Daddy says it's hot. Backwards, it spells Ela Booze. Now, brethren, what have you got? You've got Jubilee!
An avalanche of fan mail from all fronts and outposts testifies to the popularity of Jubilee. This 30-minute radio show is one of 106 recorded programs shipped overseas each week by the Armed Forces Radio Service from headquarters at Los Angeles.
You sad sacks in your khaki kilts and you swingy salts on your pewter scooters, batten down your GI pork pies. And now, here's your master of ceremonies, Jubilee sweater boy, Ernie Bubbles Whitman.
Thank you, devotees of the Limp Lago. With your permission, I'd like to do a few imitations. First, there's a familiar fellow we've all seen standing on track number 5 just before the 20th Century pulled out of Chicago for New York. And he goes something like this. All aboard! Train leaving for South Bend, Syracuse, Rochester. Coming, Mother! Well, bless my big fat soul. How are you, Roch?
Fine, Ernie, but I have a little problem. I brought a chick with me tonight. I wonder if you could help me out.
Well, I'll be glad to take off your hands, son.
Just a minute, big boy. That's not my problem.
Oh.
What I want to know is, should I bring her into the studio and take a chance on losing her or leave her out in the hall and likewise?
Well, then, by all means, bring this gal in.
Okay. Come on in, honey. Fellas, here's Lena Horne.
How about us telling everybody about consequences?
Okay. Hear it, boys. Life's full of consequence, that old devil consequence. He takes all the frivol out of fun. When you got the candle lit at both ends the scandal it creates, always keeps you on the run. Just when you're weakening, fate sends the deacon in, crash, and your pash ain't worth an ounce. 'Cause then comes the consequence, that old devil consequence flings you back with a bounce. It's consequences what count.
Life's full of consequence, but who's scared of consequence? Let's sip the honey while it's sweet. We could be messing round, but you is digressing round while I'm tossing nature at your feet. Why don't we mosey round? You could be cozy round a gal who could sprinkle you with spice.
But how about the consequence, that old devil consequence? I've been burned more than twice. It's consequences of
Thank you, Rochester, and thank you, Lena Horne. And now, men, here comes a hunk of hot right out of Hallelujah Heaven. Private Babe Wallace and Timmy Rogers. Well, boys, what is this mess all about?
Well, it all happened the night Timmy and I received a letter.
Yeah, a letter, the contents of which were most serious.
Well, now tell me, was it a love letter?
Not exactly. It was a letter written by a group of our neighbors when they discovered that we were between the ages of 18 and 38.
Oh, I see.
A group of neighbors. He used the word loosely.
Well, you see, Ernie, it was sort of a melody in 1A. This is what we sat down and wrote.
Oh,
Try it out, Timmy.
Okay, Jack. I got my greetings the other day, and I started to run the other way. That would be wrong, even you'll agree. But here's what Uncle Sam had to say to me. Bring enough clothes for 3 days. Bring enough clothes for 3 days. Bring enough clothes for 3 days, 'cause they ain't gonna turn you loose. Bring enough clothes for 3 days. 50 a month is all it pays. Bring enough clothes for 3 days. And don't bring no sad excuse. You got to realize you're a soldier now. If you don't realize you're a soldier anyhow, that little mess is up to you. Brother, there's nothing that you can do but bring enough clothes for 3 days. You've got a chance to get a raise, but bring enough clothes for 3 days, 'cause they ain't gonna turn you loose. Now, they may take your brother, your sister, and your mother, your uncle, nieces, and cousins, 'cause Jack, they're snatching them by the dozen. Bring enough clothes for 3 days. Bring enough clothes for 3 days. But bring enough clothes for 3 days, 'cause they're gonna turn you loose.
Thank you, boys. Thank you. That was smooth as the skin on a mellow molecule. Fellas, no Jubilee would be complete without batting a breeze with that horn of plenty. Lena with a nothing could be fina frontispiece. Sighs toward the kilocycles. Lena.
You know, fellas, we here on Jubilee use a language that might sound off the cuff to some of you. When we dedicate a number to, say, Sad Sack Jack from Fond du Lac, a latched on Jack and a khaki sack, woo! We say it that way because, well, I guess because we feel it's a little more personal. We send our hellos and our songs and our laughter, yes, and our hearts clear around the world to you, wherever you happen to be. Then we say to ourselves, we know by your letters that in your spare time, lots of those same fellas hear our jokes and our music, and that makes us try all the harder to send you week after week the kind of entertainment that you used to look for back home. So keep letting us know what it is. This is your program. Someday he'll come along, the man I love, and he'll be big and strong, the man I love. And when he comes my way, I'll do my best to make him stay. He'll look at me and smile, I'll understand. And then in a little while, he'll take my hand. And though it seems absurd, I know we both won't say a word. Maybe I shall meet him Sunday, maybe Monday, maybe not. Still, I'm sure to meet him one day. Maybe Tuesday will be my good news day. He'll build a little home just meant for two, from which I'll never roam. Who would you? And so all else above, I'm waiting for the man I
so I'll never let it slip. 'Cause when I learn a secret, boy, I zipper up my lip. Now, the military secret that I carry in my brain, I keep in safe deposit with a padlock and chain. You bet I got a secret. Oh, and I bet we find it out. The soldier's got a secret, but I bet we find it out. Hello, Ma. I got a secret. I can only drop a tip. Don't breathe a word to no one, but I'm going on a trip. Shh! Don't breathe a word to no one, but he's going on a trip. Hey, give me some magazines to read for when I'm on the ship. Don't breathe a word to no one, but he's going to go by ship. It's a cinch to keep a secret if a fella just takes care. He's sailing on a troop ship. Now we got to find out where. I'm a sound and silent soldier, just as steady as a rock. Here's to my little secret with its chain and padlock. Say you're a nifty trick. I hope I meet some babes in Africa as cute as you are. This message is important. I must fly a double trick. It's been a wonderful evening, and I'd like to stay some more. But I gotta get a move on now. I sail at 4:30. He's got to get a move on now. He sails at 4:30. Hey, the troop ship bound for Africa pulls out at 4:30. Calling all Wolfpack! Calling all Wolfpack! The transport ship for Africa pulls out at 4:30. Hail! suppose it was that let my secret out. What was that I heard you say, my little sauerkraut? He wonders who in hell it was that let his secret out.
London is doomed, said Dr. Goebbels. And Adolf Hitler's intuitive propaganda experts claimed that in its first few days of attack last June, V1, the flying bomb, the robot bomb, the buzz bomb, had almost entirely removed the city of London from the war-scarred face of the earth. Yes, once again, the great, patient, enduring city of London was suffering. Find yourself as V1 might have found you, coming at you from dawn to dusk, dusk to dawn. You're a passenger on a crosstown bus. This is the end of your last ride. You're a kid in school. This is your lesson for today. You're an airman on leave, and this is your welcome mat. You're a diner in a restaurant. This is where you have your last bite. You're a patient in a hospital. This is your final treatment. You're a worshiper in church. This is where you kneeled and never got up again. Yes, London was suffering under V1. Suffering, but alive. 23,000 buildings utterly destroyed. 1 million damaged. Over 5,000 lives lost. Over 16,000 broken. But London worked. You're a member of a heavy rescue squad and you dig with your hands to save a life. You're an attendant in a first aid station and you haven't slept in 3 days. You're a GI MP and you break patrol to help the London Bobby. You're the man on the street and you do what you can. London suffered, but London worked and London fought. You're part of the crew of an ACAC battery on the south coast and you can't close your eyes. V1, you bring down countless bombs with ACAC. You work hard down on the south coast in the white sun and gray mist, and in the nervous night. You're a member of a barrage balloon unit. In the 80 days, you bring down nearly 300 with only steel cables stretched in the sky. You're a pilot of a Tempest or Mustang or new type Spitfire sweeping through space. And you bring down nearly 2,000 pilotless bombs in the 80 days. And it isn't easy. Yes, you fight back and you bring them down in the thousands. But some get through to the villages and towns of England, and some get through to London. Their numbers are also in the thousands. They come groaning and spitting and roaring, and you don't know when they'll suddenly stop and drop on you. You're a farm laborer. It's like sitting in a dentist's chair when they come over. Only worse. You're a hairdresser in for a swim on Sunday afternoon. It's like seeing snakes. If you don't like snakes, only worse. You're a citizen of southern England, and it's a matter of life and death. Your life, your death. You're a roof spotter, or any kind of spotter. And all you can do is watch out for them and pray. The Germans had hoped to win a compromise peace out of the bombardment of London. They had hoped that the new trial of the battered capital would finally break the will of the English people. They broke British homes, churches, schools, bodies. But the will to fight grew stronger than ever. On a bright Sunday morning in June, a buzz bomb hit the chapel near the London barracks of a famous regiment of the British Army. In that chapel were wives and children of the men who were fighting that morning outside Caen. After that, those men fought with merciless ferocity. The Germans in Normandy paid for the blind savagery of their masters. The British have not been the only ones to suffer under the new weapons in the Nazi arsenal. Americans were killed by the side of their allies. American WWII, serving in London, died on this new random battlefield. And later on the continent, the Germans gave us a preview of the wars of the future by assailing us in Luxembourg and Belgium with the sputtering robot bomb. Imagine the wars of the future. Look at this wreckage and see New York in the next war. Washington, San Francisco, Milwaukee, Dallas. Imagine the far-reaching weapons of 1960, 1970. Continents would war against continents across great oceans. Buttons would be pressed, the cities would crumble half a world away. It would be a war of wizards. No one anywhere would be out of the front lines. Your children would live on the edge of a perpetual Senlo, a constant Tarawa. That is, if you don't stop it. You have bled for the people of London, and they have bled for you. That goes for the people of Stalingrad, the people of Manila, the people of Athens, Paris, and Chongqing. If you remember that, if you remember that you don't want that bleeding for yourselves and for them to continue forever, if you remember that you want a peace that no monstrous inventions, no violent men can ever destroy, if you remember all that and devote yourself to it as you're devoting yourself to winning this war, your children and your children's children will never stand like this on American soil, looking up at the rubble of their homes.
Performance USA, the greatest entertainers in America, is requested by you, the fighting men of the United States Armed Forces throughout the world. This weekly radio program is governed by your letters. Joe Jeep commands in the War Department of Bays. Anything from a song by Judy Garland to the sizzling sound of a sirloin steak. As this program is being performed in a Hollywood studio, a master recording is made from which transcripts will be shipped to Army and government-operated stations all over the world. Strictly for you men overseas, no matter how small your outfit. And speaking of little things and trivia in general, here's old General Trivia in person. Your commanding officer of this command performance, your old sidekick, and Chief Scout of the Wolf Patrol, Bob Hope.
Thank you very much. Thank you. How do you do, fellas? This is Bob. This is Bob, Command Performance Hope, telling each Nazi that's in Russia today that Crimea doesn't pay. I'm now getting my material from H.V. Coltonborn. Well, I'm a little tired tonight. I just got back from Camp Roberts, drove down 200 miles in a Jeep. Tomorrow I get the order of the Purple Callus. But I had a swell time, and I slept right in the barracks last night with the boys. You know what barracks are. That's 2,000 cots separated by individual crap games. But anyway, let's hit the harmony trail to all APO and FTO numbers. For Fletch, Alfie, and Dooley, and for all of you everywhere, the girl who can defuse a blockbuster with one kiss, Miss Betty Hutton.
Thank you. Hiya, fellas. And hello, Bob.
Well, hiya, Betty. And say, I want to congratulate you on your big hit in our new picture. It's nice to see a youngster coming up.
It's nice to see an oldster holding his own.
Well, that's fine. And now, Betty, as one of the 3 flying Huttons, will you answer a slew of command performance requests and strafe us with that 50 caliber tune? He says murder, he says.
Finally found a fella almost completely divine, but his vocabulary is killing this romance of mine. We get into an intimate situation, and then begins this Romeo's conversation. He says murder, he says, every time we kiss, he says murder, he says, at a time like this, he says murder, he says, is that the language of love? He says solid, he says, takes me in his arms and says solid, he says, meaning all the charms, he says solid, he says, is that the language of love? He says, chick, chick, you torture me, zoot, are we living? I'm thinking of leaving him flat. He says, dig, dig, the jump, the old ticker is given. No, he gets on plainer than that. He says murder, he says. Every time we kiss, he says murder, he says. Keep it up like this and that, murder, he says. In that apostle tone, we'll bring on nobody's murder but his own. He says Jackson, he says. And my name's Marie, says Jackson, he says. Shoot the snoot to me, says Jackson, he says. Is that the language of love? He says, walk, walk, he says. When he likes my hat, he says, what the heck is that? He says, woo, woo, he says. Is that the language of love? He says, pep, pep, with helium now, babe, we're cooking. And other expressions to it. He says, we're into groove, and the groove is good looking. He sounds like his upper stone set. He says murder! He says murder! And away he says murder! And that apostle tone! I've told him over and over and over again that it'll be nobody else's murder. Boy, but his own!
Yes, sir, a vitamin pill with legs. How about that? Thanks, Betty Hutton. And also the 370th Army Air Force Band of the San Bernardino Air Service Command. Well, gang, command performance has filled many an order for those sounds that remind you of home, from the bleat of a billy goat to the fizz of a bourbon and soda. And now comes the Ordnance Gang at 863 with a letter from Sarge Everett Hankey and Corporal Roland Lipton and this little dilly. Says, dear command, enclosed, please find peace off top of Stuka dive bomber, for which you will please have Lana Turner come out and fry us a 3-inch porterhouse steak smothered with onions, and let's hear it sizzle. Just to prove there's no request too large, fellas, here she is, Lana Turner.
Hello, fellas. And hiya, Bob. Say, have the FBI men found a steak yet?
Yes, it's backstage. But, Lana, this is dangerous. If this audience sees steak, they'll come right up here after it.
Oh, I don't know. They've seen ham all evening, and you're still here.
Right now, I'm vacant. Now, Lana. Lana, let's get on with this thing. Be a good girl and let's fry that steak, huh?
Okay. Bring on the porterhouse steak.
Well, look, they got an armed guard around the steak.
Hop.
Oh, look at this.
Well, all right,
Hi, Bob. Is your griddle hot?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That'll do, Bob. Now, the steak, please. Oh, well, here it is, fellas. Beautiful. A porterhouse steak, 3 inches thick. The only one in captivity.
You gonna give that a hot foot?
Into the frying pan.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. There you are, fellas. That's the sound of a steak sizzling.
Fellas, that's the steak. That's not me sizzling. That's the steak.
And, fellas, I wish I could cook a big steak for each and every one of you.
But now for the whole AEF, for the Army nurses and Red Cross girls, civilian workers on the fighting fronts, and for the 512 gang who signed themselves Squarehead Bakowski, Cyclops Sink, Body Meeks, Stuka Martin, Incendiary Stasi Wahi, and Sad Sack Jack. Here's one of your all-time sweethearts, another command performance for that lovely sweater girl, Judy Garland.
Thanks, Bob. Hiya, fellas. Sweater girls. Bob, why are men so crazy about sweater girls?
I don't know, Judy. That's one mystery I'd like to unravel. Fellas, one of your favorite combinations. Judy Garland singing Over the Rainbow.
Dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you fly beyond the rainbow. Why, oh, why can't I?
Thanks from America to all our men in blue, our boys in khaki too, our tough Marines, our Coast Guard, our Army nurses true. We thank you so much. And thanks to our brave allies, the gallant Russian bear, the British everywhere, the free French and the Chinese, and you Latins way down there. We thank you so much. Fellas, this doesn't rhyme, but one of these days soon we'll be seeing you. And meantime, this is Bob Hope thanking you for those letters to Command Performance, Armed Forces Radio, Los Angeles, USA. Speaking for everybody on Command Performance and saying the best of the best in the USA. So long.
She's on her way, men. From us to you, every week till it's over there.